Welcome back to another episode of Primetime Crisis Vlogs Flash. Today we're talking about the episode Shade. So, obviously, based on the title, you could probably guess that Shade's in this episode, and you would be right, but Shade could have been absolutely anything. And I think that's something that I've noticed about CW Flash, is that there's so many episodes where they don't need to do the villain of the week, right? If they want to do an episode that's just about the, personal relationships of the characters or something, they don't need to have the big, okay, there's a threat, we have to figure out what his weakness is and defeat him, right? Like, they don't have to do that episode every week. They don't have to try to make that part of every week's episode if they don't want to. There's so many episodes where I feel like that's just totally wasted, where they'll just like, oh, well, we got to have some sort of physical threat, so we'll throw someone in. Why was Shade used in this? Shade could have been absolutely anything. Literally no character. Definition of a plot device. But that was just kind of a total letdown aspect of this episode. Let's go into what's going on with Caitlin, which I don't think makes much sense at all. Caitlin is acting so irrationally. It's so strange where, the main story of this episode is, oh no, Wally might, be getting his speed power somehow because he's having dreams, similar to how Frankie did when she was becoming Magenta. And Caitlin is like, oh yes, like helping the team, try to figure out this problem that they all admit is a problem, Wally potentially getting powers. But she, on the other hand, is like, I'm going to keep my powers hidden. It's like, why are you still doing that, Caitlin? So obviously she tells Cisco, but then tells Cisco not to tell anyone. Why? I mean, as a group, you guys have been able to figure out pretty much every problem you've been confronted with in the past 3 years of your life. But now you have powers and you don't think you're going to be able to figure out how to fix it. I mean, I know your mom couldn't fix it, but like, you guys are Team Flash. I don't buy that anyone knows more about metahumans than Team Flash. I just don't buy it. So that's what's going on there. It makes no sense. Caitlin doesn't really have any reason to hide her powers. I think that why they are doing that is so that they'll use that as like a motivation for her to be angry at Cisco, and they'll use the fact that she even has powers as a motivation for her to be angry at Barry in the next episode. They'll use that to be like, when she finally becomes Killer Frost, she'll be mad at Cisco for blowing her secret, and she'll be mad at Barry. But that's just a prediction. But it's just like, it's really annoying because she's really just acting irrational. And yeah, so Wally in this episode, he obviously is, it's tough because Wally just randomly all the time just totally turns into like a brat, and it's really strange, and it happens infrequently, but it's like, it's really hard to like Wally as a character when I know as a person, he's just so comfortable with going to these really horrible places and saying really horrible things. And every time he always jumps to the, you treat Barry better than me. And it's really annoying because obviously no one addresses the really obvious argument you can make that Barry's older than you, Wally. You're like in college. Barry is an adult. Barry's like 25 maybe at this point. I don't know how old Barry is, but it's like you're much younger. So it's similar to the situation that's going on with Jesse, where it's like you're not the same age. So it's not like the same argument can be applied there. I don't know. At the end of the episode, they finally do confront Alchemy, and then obviously we get introduced to Savitar, which is whatever. He looks like Megatron. That's something I wanted to point out. He looks like a Transformer, maybe like Megatron or Soundwave or something like that from the Michael Bay movies, at least. And yeah, Wally, I guess, is going to get his powers. Not a lot happens in this episode. That's the thing. They go to that movie, and I thought it was awesome that they went to see The Shining, and I thought it was funny that Cisco was talking about getting the Kubrick experience, right? Because that you do got to get the Kubrick experience. When you're going to watch The Shining, you got to watch The Shining right. I thought that was funny. I'll talk about Wells because I like Wells. Wells is great. Wells is always absolutely hilarious. And I know a lot of people probably don't find him hilarious. A lot of people probably find him really annoying, but I don't care. I just like Wells so much. I should call him HR. His name is HR now. I'm never gonna get over that. I'm always gonna call him Wells. But I thought the kind of pin thing where he changed his face was cool. I'm sure that's been in something else that I just haven't seen before, or maybe I have and I'm forgetting. There's probably, like that technology probably isn't unique to the show, but it might be. But I thought that was funny. I also thought it was funny when he's like, when were you guys going to tell me that, like my face is the face of a murderer who everyone knows is a murderer? And like, when were you going to tell me this? I thought that was funny. But overall, there's really not a lot to talk about with this episode. It's really uneventful. And like, I guess that's the big thing about this episode. It's like nothing happens and then randomly something happens at the end. So it's like 80% absolute filler. Joe went on his first kind of date with the one woman, I forgot her name, and that was okay. I mean, I really don't see what they're going to do. I feel like eventually there's only one way that relationship is going to be utilized for a story purpose, and that's going to be she's been kidnapped and Joe's all sad now that she's been kidnapped or something, or it's like there's going to be some sort of drama. I was really glad they didn't end that scene where they were watching The Shining with I'm glad that they didn't end it with like Joe having to go and she's like, "Oh, you don't care about me. You just left in the middle of our date." Like I was glad Joe didn't like get a call from someone. They're like, "Joe, we need you at this location." Wally just busted out or something. Like I'm glad that didn't happen. Overall, not a very good episode. And there's really not I don't think there's anything else to talk about. Like I think that's about all that really happened. And that was pretty much nothing happened. We kind of got something with Iris where maybe she feels inadequate to the team because she doesn't have any background in science and she doesn't have powers, so she feels left out now. I don't know. Ultimately, nothing really happened in this episode that was that important. I can't talk about it any more than I really have, so I'm going to cut it off here. But yeah, everybody, what did you think of this episode? Leave it down in the comments below. Peace out.